Last week we had a round of the Manufacturers Cup, so the Nations Cup is over and the Manufacturers Cup round 1 began at Grand Valley in Group 3, and for this one I decided to go with this Mazda RX Vision, which I thought it was gonna be a decent car. Well, that's at least what I thought before the BOP update. So I chose this car before the update, and all of a sudden this car is not exactly as great as it used to be. BOP stands for Balance of Performance, and it's supposed to make all of the cars equal, or at least get them kind of close, so they can probably race as close as they can, I guess, depending on the car, depending on the brand, and of course depending on the type of car you're driving. So this first one was kind of a mixture between the FR cars and the MR cars, and you can see Yo's trying to go down the inside, and now he's getting on the outside of this next turn. So it was kind of a tight move up there. I really tried to defend my position, and this race was really kicking on because it's only a 10-lap race and we got heavy damage, and of course if you get, let's say, a second, maybe even 2-second penalty, it's pretty much game over because you don't have enough time to get it back. And this race was pretty much all about qualifying. So who qualifies better will most likely get better places. But here I can see two guys with penalties just in front of me, and it was, well, it was kind of looking okay for me at this point. So from P11 going up to all the way I would say up to P9. But my expectations were not exactly high for this one because I've seen what those MR cars can do, and especially the RCZ and the McLaren. Okay, all of the other cars were, let's say, fine. Let's say, for example, this 911 just in front of me and the 4C. So they were okay. They were not the best, but they were actually okay to drive on this track because you got a lot of tight turns, and well, MR cars usually tend to be better in tight turns. They rotate better. They're just better. What can I even say? So I'm trying to get this Mazda up to pace here. It has decent straight line speed, but it has a lot of understeer. If you ever driven a Mazda RX Vision in this game, you probably know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of understeer, and of course, I even had to use TCS for this race because the car was almost impossible to drive on hard tires. So I had kind of two problems. Really quick drivers behind me, and I was driving the Mazda. So I guess, yeah, one of those things I guess I can blame myself for one of those things. But either way, hard tires are not exactly the best on this car, and this pretty much gives you an idea how it looks like when you're driving a Mazda on racing hard tires. So now Danny behind me, he was in the RCZ. I just knew that he was so much quicker than me, and he would just completely pull away into the distance. But I decided, you know what, let's see what I can do. Let's see if I can defend this one, because it's going to be very difficult to defend this one. But either way, let's try it. Let's park the car down the inside. But he had so much more speed, even on the outside. He can brake later. He can of course brake later because he's got a better stopping power than me. Also an MR car, which means he's going to be able to rotate through this corner even on the outside of it, which is not usually easy. I'm not saying this was completely on the car. Look, Danny has skill here, and he's really quick, and I think it's just an extension of his abilities, this RCZ. So yeah, I'm kind of in this place when now I got Will behind me, and Will, okay, I know he's in the 650S and he's also a very quick driver. So the only thing that I can do is just try to survive and eventually try to defend a little bit, if I even can do that. So on the straight, I'm just following Brad here. This upshift into 6th gear is something that didn't really help, and now I left him too much room on the outside, and I never thought he was actually gonna go for it. So yeah, I went too wide and he got the inside of this corner, and now I'm back into P10. So I got a 2.6 second gap to the guy in P11, and now Will is trying to catch up the guys up in front, and he was really quick in this one. Yeah, I gotta admit, he was really quick. But this Mazda was really struggling with traction, and I even had to use TCS. That's how bad it was. With mediums and softs, it's okay, you can put the power down, but here you're just trying to survive and racing hard tires. So it was quite a big deficit on racing hards instead of the, let's say, racing softs, racing medium tires. So it wasn't that great for Mazda, trust me, it just wasn't. So I was looking at the replay of Will, and then I realized, what can I do with this 650S? I just wanted to try it out, see what I can do on the same, like in the same circumstances. And I went into my second account, and I would say with just maybe 5 to 6 minutes of practice, I'm getting P4 in this race. And now I got Slayers, Valerio, and Key in front of me. And I really quick drivers behind me. So this race is not gonna be easy. I think this was split 2 or maybe even split 3. I think it's actually split 2 because, yeah, most of the other guys already picked up a points and they most likely are not racing right now. So this is most likely the second split. So the previous one was the top split where usually the quickest drivers are. This is one step below, but it's still really fast. Valerio is here. I don't know what he's doing, but I guess he's just trying different cars, trying to do the impossible with that 4GT, which is definitely not the best car, maybe even worse than all of the other cars that I've ever tried on the circuit, but okay. I guess he just wants to have some fun, and I'm not exactly sure how is he even driving that thing here, but okay. I'm just trying to focus not to crash because I really don't know how to drive this thing. I don't know what gears to use. I guess I'm just learning in the first couple of laps, and all of a sudden Slayers is getting a half a second penalty, which means on this circuit you're most likely going to lose just about a second. It's not too bad, but it's also not great because it's still a penalty. And now I can see the guys up in front, Key and Valerio, were actually fighting for, well, quite a while. So this battle was going on for, well, from the beginning of the race and then later on into the race. I tried to go on the outside of this corner, but there is simply not enough space. So Slayer stays in front, and I was just too far behind. I couldn't keep up the pace. I was really trying and trying to kind of understand this car and get better with it. So mostly it's finding the right braking points, finding the right gears, and finding all of the right things. And now I even missed a gear shift, so it wasn't, yeah, it just wasn't looking great, to be honest. I mean, I was just trying to get used to the car and not make a silly mistake and then eventually go wide or maybe even into a wall, because even if you touch a wall in here, it's a 1.5 second penalty and you just don't want to get one of those. So here I'm just trying to stay behind Slayers here, which is once again also a quick driver in the AMG, and AMG seems to be like a very good car in here. And now I made this, well, as I said before, I'm just trying to learn what this car can do. I kind of saved it up in there, but it wasn't easy. I guess this is what happens when you're learning the car and trying to, well, be in the second split, trying to beat all of these guys, and all of a sudden you're doing it, I guess, with a different car. And you probably spend like 5 minutes trying to learn that car. Although I do have experience with this car, I've driven it in the Nations Cup, and it's quite a good car. It's a really good on tires. You don't really need tires in this one, but either way, it's a really good car. It has a lot of traction, good cornering, even, I would say, very good top speed. Now it's even better after the BOP update, and, you know, it's a good car, but you still need to get used to it. And now, all of a sudden, I am starting to catch the leader, which is not usually easy, because it's Valerio. Of course, he's in a 4GT, and all of a sudden, I do a 48.0, and it was like the best lap that I've done. I think even better than my qualifying lap, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm learning this car. I guess I'm getting better with this. And all of a sudden in the next lap I repeated the 48.0 again, and now I'm just right there, just close to Key, just trying to, well, eventually even make a move, because you never really know. I mean, he can make a mistake, he can pick up a penalty, so it's maybe, you know what, let's push it, let's see what I can do, and let's try to get close to him. And this is exactly what I tried to do in this corner. I mean, it's really difficult to stay close because you got so much dirty air, but I didn't want to hit him. So it was like, oh, maybe I could have got on the power a little bit sooner, released the brakes slightly sooner, but again, you're risking too much, so there is no point of doing it here. So this is kind of a sliding corner for the McLaren, not that easy to do, but again, it's very rewarding to do if you do it right. And here, also this one, trying to get the rotation in the first gear and exit in second gear. I was exiting in first, and you can see amount of oversteer I had in this corner, so it was always second. It's always better to exit in second than first. And 1.4 seconds off the lead. Now I'm just trying to catch Key, but we don't have much time left. It's the last lap of the race. I mean, there is really not that much to do. But I did a 48.0, and already I knew this car was, well, this car was actually a lot quicker than the previous one, than with the Mazda, and I was more consistent with this car, and I had more chance of actually winning. So then I decided to compare both of those cars, just to see, well, just to see the differences, and now you will be able to see those differences. So I got the McLaren 650S on the left, and I got the Mazda on the right, and now you can really see the braking points, the turning points, how am I going around the circuit, what am I doing, and you can also see that TCS activating with the Mazda, which is quite unusual in the top split because no one is using TCS, and except if you're maybe using a Mazda. I guess that's one of those possibilities. But okay, through this section, everything is fine. We're not that far off each other. But now, as we're getting into this technical section of the track, you can really start to see the difference. So it's not much of a difference. Both of the laps were relatively clean. They could have been a little bit better, in my opinion. I could have done, let's say, a 47.9 with them, or a little bit quicker. But now, the McLaren is starting to get that advantage. So the Mazda simply doesn't have the cornering speed. So you can see much more speed in the corners with the McLaren, and I can eventually accelerate and brake much earlier. So I guess I can brake later. I guess that's what I wanted to say. But either way, you get the point. I can brake later with the McLaren, and I can of course turn better with the McLaren. And of course I can put the power down without risk of spinning out, which is also quite a huge benefit if you're just, you know, trying to push it every single lap, every single corner. So here you can once again really see the difference, and this was one of the corners that were not exactly the best for the Mazda because of heavy wheel spin. So here you have to abuse the curbs, go over the curbs, and then put the power down as much as you possibly can. So it's quick, it needs to be quick, it needs to be precise to get that speed onto the straight. And McLaren was really doing a good job in there, because you can put the power down as soon as you like and it's going to stay. So I would really like to hear your opinions about this one, and what do you think? I think the BOP is better than it was, but there is still something missing out. So guys, please let me know what you think about this one, and yeah, once again, thank you very much for watching, and bye.